Pop would take all the boxes apart, save the nails,
You bet your life.
and they were saved and saved and saved. And whatever happened to them, I don't know, but that's one of the little reminiscences that I can think of.
I remember the coal man.
There are many more, but I can't come up with them. Jerry, your turn. Pick a subject.
I remember the coal man, the bag, a big black burlap bag, carried on his shoulder, and we'd be there.
And how about the
Then-
rifle stocks
What?
Oh, there. Oh, sure.
from Winchester's? Did the effective rifle stocks?
They used to do that. The remains of the butts
Yep.
would be tarred. When that lumber was delivered to Winchester's for the making of those rifles or guns, whatever you want to call them, they were sealed at wherever they came from with a tar coating at each end of the material that would have been
The box.
milled to the stock style, size, whatever. The remains then would go to, which was for years a Winchester dump at the end of Winchester Avenue.
Rochford Field.
Yeah, so Rochford Field. Now,
The dump.
because we were right there on the main route, and our father knew the people who drove the trucks, he'd say, hey, you don't have to dump all that stuff up the dump. That wood stock makes good firewood, so they would leave it at the curbside.
Yep.
And it would then be hauled by us and other kids around,
Those big
And-
black, big
yeah.
wheeled trucks.
and all of that would be used for firewood, for furnaces in the early days.
And we used to cut a broomstick and nail it onto the rifle stock, and we had our rifle for all our fun and games.
That's right.
Yeah.
Roller skates, Winchesters used to make them. We would get roller skates, you know, those slightly defective things.
What was the ultimate? Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Those are some of the things.
The ultimate was the cat ski key.
Oh, the key?
Yeah, and if you own that key, no one could take it from you. That was use it for the getting the skates on.
Yeah, you would tighten up the clamps.
Yeah,
And you better have good soles on your shoes or you were going to be in trouble.
you're lucky to have shoes.
In those days when the water got between the glue-on sole and the old shoe, they were just like a tongue going up and down the
Well,
street.
you couldn't wear sneakers to school.
They
Because
didn't have
they made
crazy
you look
glue.
cooler.
Those are the old days, and most people are tired of hearing about them, but they were part of our past history.
And one thing I wanted to point out, during the 1940s, we were first in technology on Lilac Street because we had texting. Nobody else had texting, but we had texting. No smartphones, but we would write on the white porcelain table a message from me to Jack or Jack to Mom,
Oh, yeah.
Father, whatever.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, all texting would be deleted with a wet washcloth. If it was
Wiped away.
If you were
and
bad, it was
to
done
start the
early.
day anew. Or Jerry would call up and he'd say, I'll be home in half an hour, I want hot water. And my mother would run to the hot water heater in the kitchen, light it up, 25, 30 gallons, and Jerry would arrive, have his shower,
Yeah.
and
The funny
treat
part
it
about
like the
And
prince.
you always felt the hot water tank to make sure you weren't getting too much.
Yeah.
Because when they felt the tank, if it was hot enough here, it didn't have to go up here. So that was the water. That was the hot
That's right.
water.
In the apartment or in the basement?
No, in the house, in
In
the
the
kitchen.
house.
We had a big hot water tank that was gas fired. And when we wanted hot water for a bath, because we didn't have showers, we only had a bathtub.
Oh.
So if we had a shower, it might have been a hose, but then we'd go to the tank,
Turn on the gas.
turn the gas on,
Put a
and then
match in
feel
there.
the tank. As it got warmer and warmer, as soon as it got to a point where we felt there was like 15 or 20 gallons, that's it, turn the tank off. Get in, take your bath, and get out. Someone else is going to be along. And
Don't empty the water, the next guy can use it.
no, I don't want to use it.
Usually me.
The
That's what you
baby.
get for being the young
That's
one.
right.
That's right.
The water was always a problem.
So those are some of the reminiscences.
Here's another thing I remember as we didn't have credit cards in those days. There was no such thing. But we had the first real credit card type of thing. We had a little blue book with a little wire clip on it. And when you went to the store, you brought the little book with you across the street to Frankel's. And if you bought a loaf of bread or a pound of bologna, he'd write it in your book, and you bring it home and your mother would look at it. And then he would come by once a week with the book.
Right.
And he'd say to my mother, you owe $12.19.
That would be
and
for
my
a
mother
month.
would say, I'm getting rid of the book. Too much money. But that was really the first credit card.
One more item on the water. There was always a complaint that we used too much. So one day my father was talking to Danny, and Danny had given no satisfaction. So my father says, when I was your age, I'd take a bath in a kettle of water. And Danny says, how'd you fit?
How'd you fit?
Yes, that was a classic.
That was classic right
See,
there.
Deidre remembered that.
Did you remember that?
No, Deidre, she stayed skinny. She heard that story before.
That's what always stuck in my mind.
In the kettle. Here.
They were interesting times for a whole crowd of us.
Living with the times.
That's right.
Another thing I remember is the three of us are sitting here very nice and polite now, but growing up there was not quite so politeness. And when things got to a heated level, my mother would say to one of us, go out to the yard and get a switch, which meant to get a big thing off the hedge bush so she could beat us with it. She never did beat us with it, but she was the most peace-loving woman in North America. But I remember that, get a switch.
That's right.
And you knew the argument was over. That was it.
Oh, yes.
You guys wouldn't go get one, would you?
Are you kidding me? That'd be race against time.
The olden days, they were entertaining. They're entertaining now. They weren't so entertaining then, but certainly we made the best of what we had. And that was pretty much the way America lived in those days. We didn't,
Most were that way.
my father would work at Winchester's in hard, dirty work, and his paycheck on a Thursday or Friday, when it would be left there, that'd be $26. That was 3 boys, mother and father. So it gave you some idea of what.
Own the house.
And $25
And
a
yet
week?
we owned our own home. My mother said the one thing she always wanted was her own home, and we had that. We always had our own house.
Did your mom
So-
and dad have a car?
No.
We never knew we were poor.
No, because no one else around us were much better off either.
I was positive growing up that we were living in a middle class
Yeah.
We were rich.
era until I got to college and we were doing some kind of a sociology book reading or whatever, and it pointed out what were the characteristics of the upper class and the lower upper class. We weren't in that. upper middle class, we're not there. Lower middle class, not there. We got to the upper lower class, there we were.
We made it.
I found
That's
out
how
the
you
truth.
affected.
Well, that's America. Really and truly, when you think about the progression of all those years, the way things are today versus what they were then, and just the way the workers in these various institutions were, working so very hard for so very little under conditions that would never be allowed today.
Yep.
You could go take a trolley car. We could take a trolley from where we lived on Lilac Street.
The O.
Yeah, and you'd get for a quarter 3 tokens. And when we were kids in grammar school, you could get the student thing.
Tickets.
Ticket. What was it? You get it for
4 cents.
whatever it was. It was
4
a
cents.
big bargain. And then you could get a transfer. You didn't have to pay another
Right.
fare.
You go down on the Winchester and come back on the Shelton.
Yeah, the walking's good for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's sort of it in a nutshell. It would take
And there was no big clothing budget for the boys.
None.
I think the first new pair of pants I ever remember having, I was in either 8th or 9th grade, because Jack's pants went to Jerry, Jerry's pants went to Dan, and that was it.
Sometimes they washed.
Yeah, well, in fact, well, they're just it's part of our life. We had someone we knew who worked at Yale as a maintenance guy, and after the kids left for the summer, they left all kinds of things behind them. They were going home, graduating, whatever they were doing, and he'd come by with some nice items, like let's say a couple of young men's shirts. Looked like they were practically new, but the kids didn't care. They came from well-to-do families. So what? Leave them there. Or a pair of shoes, you'd put them on and you'd say, wow.
They're too big, it'll fit soon.
Yeah, that's all right. Put something in the toes.
You could buy fake soles and glue them to your
So
shoes.
that's it, folks. That's all I can remember.
I've carried on that tradition because I'm on Craigslist every day looking for whatever somebody doesn't want. If it's a good thing and buy it, I get it, and that's it.
They were
It
good
was
times.
Good training.
Well, you couldn't wear long pants until you were in 8th grade.
Yeah,
They were knickers, so you're
knickers and stockings, and we would walk to
knee
school.
highs.
Today they have a bus to take you from the front of this house to the corner.
To the next house, to
Yeah,
the next house, to the
and
next
then,
house. The bus
when
stops every house.
We were at least a mile away from the school, and we walked it every day. And if we came home for lunch, it was home for lunch and back, and then back again. So the conditions were quite different, but now they're very enjoyable because things have changed, and we have too. So, but they were interesting times.
What was your favorite meal growing up?
Because that was the era before World War
Smoked
II.
shoulder.
World War II came about and changed everything. And
Winchester's was humming
24 hours a day, never stopped.
7 days a week.
5,000 workers.
Deidre asked about your favorite meal. What was your favorite meal? I know mine.
What was it?
Boiled chicken. We had boiled chicken, I believe, every Sunday with potatoes and a vegetable. And I think I was in high school before I found out there was another way to cook a chicken besides boiled. In fact, Arlene laughs, but when Arlene goes away on various trips that she goes on, I always cook a boiled chicken, even today. And I love it. It's so good.
I remember
I'm going to open a boiled chicken
Smoked
restaurant.
shoulder, yeah, anything that was inexpensive. And lamb chops used to be very cheap when we were kids.
Yeah.
So we would have lamb chops when you go to the grocery store and I hear
It's
my
one of the
wife
most
or
expensive
Carol talk
today.
about the price of meat. When you think about it, in those days when lamb chops were very inexpensive. Pork chops also.
Smoked shoulder was another popular meal at that time.
Mashed potatoes.
And cabbage.
Yeah.
Yep.
The fish man came around on Friday with his little old car, loaded the back of the wagon, loaded with different fish, and he'd have a horn that'd be blowing, people would go out. We didn't have refrigeration, we had ice boxes. We had an ice box, you had a little card in the window.
And the Iceman came.
10, 15, 20, or 25. So whatever you wanted in the size of a piece of ice,
Put that number.
you'd put that top. We always got the
You
10
could buy
cent
the
piece.
ice by the side.
And the guy would lug the ice up to the second floor, put it in the ice box, and away he'd go. Fish man, he came every Friday in the season with his horn.
What kind of fish did you have then?
Oh, I have no idea. Probably it was
If it
hot.
swam, we bought it.
That's right.
I never remember you talking about fish. I know that you don't
special?
like boiled chicken, Dad. You don't
Well-
you don't like chicken at all, right?
See, we're a part of a breed that's gone. But it's changing, obviously. But our parents were immigrants, and they were very poor people who came to this country to make their way because they had to make do, but it was going to be a lot better than what they were leaving behind. So we were infused with be happy with what you have. You should be very thankful for what we have. And again, you didn't have anyone else to weigh this against because everybody was sort of in the same boat. So, here we are.
You did what you did.
Was your neighborhood all Irish growing up?
No, it was mixed. Usually a lot of Irish, Italians, Polish. I would say, I'd say it was a pretty decent mix. But of course, most of our parents' friends were Irish, obviously.
And Lilac Street, that was the first house you guys bought?
It's the only house we ever owned. That's right.
Did you ever live anywhere before Lilac Street? Or
Yes.
Winchester Avenue,
Winchester Avenue and
626.
Barclay Street in New Haven.
Barclay Street in New Haven, which is now gone. The whole corner has been torn down. There's nothing there anymore. But that was the birthplace of all three. And then we moved to Winchester Avenue because
626.
right, our father wound up getting a job at Winchester's. And then, of course, World War II came about, and we were on Winchester Avenue for no more than 2 years, and then we moved because my mother, as I've said earlier, always wanted her own home, so that no one could tell her that she could or could not do something. And she did it. And that was Lilac Street.
And
much
bought
did
a
that cost?
beautiful two-family home for $4,000.
Right. Yeah, with rooms in the attic, fully finished.
Did you guys have your own room? Bedrooms?
If we went up to the attic.
Had you ever been there, Matt?
I
Now-
barely remember. I remember the kitchen and the living room, and then there was a back bedroom where
Yeah,
Grandpa's
and a
life
side
was.
bedroom kind of off the kitchen.
Right.
But was it that house where you guys were in the attic and woke up one morning with snowy feet?
Could be.
Was
Yes.
that the
That's the
story?
story.
What was the
It
story?
could very well be.
Somebody
because-
left the window open.
Somebody left the window.
Oh yeah, if you got a snowstorm and as kids they go to sleep and fall asleep and they sleep very soundly, and that could have happened.
Did Grandpa work anywhere else prior to Winchester's?
Yale.
At Yale, but he was
Yale golf
yeah,
course.
Yale
was the pro?
groundskeeping people.
That's where you got the golf dream.
That's it.
Was he really that big of a guy? The way my dad talks about Grandpa, he was a big...
He
Mountain of a
was a
man.
big man. Yes,
Yeah.
he wasn't so much big as like being 6'6". He was probably 6 feet, but he was a rotund,
strong.
hard-working,
Strong.
strong.
Beyond
Oh,
belief. They said he was
Stubborn.
very, very strong. It would make me amazed when I'd see some of the stuff he could move around.
I heard he didn't like to answer the telephone.
And even when
he didn't know what it was.
when we moved to Wallingford, we had to dig a pit for a dry well. He said, "I'll come out and I'll help you." And now let's see. In that 1950, I was in my mid-20s. To watch him work was absolutely amazing. Never stopped. No machine. All like this. So yeah, he was big. He was strong.
And the poor man, he walked with a limp many years and later in life, back and forth to work. And he always attributed it to rheumatism. And I don't believe he ever went to a doctor for it. I had never known him to take an aspirin. And today, looking back on it, I wonder if it was far more than rheumatism or arthritis. Did he have a bad hip that today could be replaced kind of easily?
Yeah.
But doctors at that time, because of financial restraints, were like unknown. You just didn't go to the doctor.
They
You
would
didn't
come
go
to
to
your
the
house.
dentist. And I think I remember this, that one time he went down to the basement with a pair of pliers and pulled out a tooth that was bothering him.
My
And
mom
that was
will
the
say
end of
yes.
the dentist. So that's the way you lived because you had to live. And he never complained about it.
No, I never.
Wouldn't
Once
he
you
have to
fix
pack
it-
him a lunch to go to work? Like, would he have like a few sandwiches, like a lunch pail? Is
5.
that-
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He would
5
make
sandwiches.
either he would make up his lunch or my mother would make it up for him, and off he'd go, and that would take care of him. And then he came home, and we all sat down. We had whatever dinner was being prepared, and then it was,
3:30.
So between, there was no TV in those days, remember. You either listened to the radio or you read newspapers. So we didn't have the opportunities to do a lot of things that are very normal and ordinary today. Going to Yankee Stadium, never been to a Yankee Stadium, never been to, until we were in high school, going to football games at Yale Bowl, or things of that sort. They were just unheard of.
We were so easily pleased, talking about television. We got our first television when I was probably maybe 12 or 13 years old, and I couldn't believe that we had a television in our living room. It was magnificent. And the TV came on at 6 o'clock in the evening. The news would come on. But I would come home from school at 3:30 and would have a supper then at 3:30, and I would go into the living room and turn on the television just to watch the test pattern. Right here in my own living room.
It was a 10-inch
TV. It was
screen.
incredible.
10-inch screen, Jerry?
Black, just black, and it shut at 11 o'clock. Shut down.
The closest we'd get to golf is the caddy over at New Haven Country Club.
Yeah.
And we would caddy for $1 and think that was a good day's
18 holes.
18 holes.
Dad, didn't you follow Grandpa to work, or try to follow him to work from Barclay Street?
Pardon?
I don't
A
know.
story about Barclay Street following Grandpa to work but getting lost?
Oh, Lord, yeah.
How old were you, Doug?
Neil and I were...
22.
I don't know. No, I'm like the bad penny. They couldn't lose me if they wanted to. When Neil and I went down Washington Avenue not too many weeks ago, and everything that we were familiar with had disappeared. The three-deckers and the corner stores, gone. So I was just citing to him that when I was a kid, when I'd hear my father, our father, in the morning, up and having his breakfast, I would have a little bit of his coffee, and then I would follow him. Or not every day, but one time I do remember, I did follow him. I gave him maybe a half a dozen houses, and I was about 6.
Then he started to run.
And he started, he said, maybe I can get rid of this kid now. So anyway,
Well,
I
it's
followed
working.
him all the way to the end of Washington Avenue to the big intersection. It's still a very busy intersection of Howard, Washington, and Columbus, I think. And he took a turn, and I lost him. I had no idea where he went. He didn't know I was following him. He never turned around. I never said anything, just followed him. And he took off, disappeared. Now, I've had frights in my life. That was the first. What do I do? So someone must have seen this little kid, 6-year-old kid, crying on the corner.
Maybe it was your
And
father.
anyway, the person either went, there was a police station, it's still there, it's no longer a police station, but it's still on Howard Avenue, and must have gotten a cop to come over and get this little boy. So this policeman brought me over to the station, and you've seen all the old movies with the green lights on the inside, you know, where the police in charge sat me up there, and someone sent someone out to get some ice cream for this little kid. And they found out somehow that I was able to tell them that I knew where I lived. I must have, because the next thing, of course, my mother, our mother, is there, and problem solved. But it was a frightening experience for a little kid, and that's like walking from here down Route 10, probably to, not as far as the high school, but it was a good walk. And when you're 6 years old, it could be only from here to the back of the house would be a good walk. But that's a little gem of history.
And didn't Grandma send you to pay certain bills at that?
Oh, we used to, oh God. My mother would say, Jack, go downtown to the bank and see Neil Corcoran. They used to tell her at the New Haven Savings Bank, and he's over on the right. And the note, dear New Haven Savings Bank, this is my son. Please give him $20.
First
Wonder why I ended
checks.
up in police
Yeah.
First checks.
And I would, it's reminiscing and it's fun because we don't have to do it. We would go down on the Winchester Avenue trolley car, go to the bank, and get Mr. Corcoran, and he'd give me the $20 in a New Haven Savings Bank envelope. And I would hurry over to the downtown part, Church and Chapel, get the Shelton Avenue trolley car, because you got to transfer. You didn't have to pay a second time. Back up,
Come home.
back home, and it was a 2-block walk, which was nothing.
63.
But those were
Talking about the New Haven Savings Bank, I think my mother told me this one time, that the mortgage arrangement was for Lilac Street. There was no set mortgage payment every month, or maybe there was set, but if you didn't have that much, you bring down to the New Haven Savings Bank the amount of money that you had. If the mortgage was $12, if you brought down $8, they would accept it, and there were not going to be any foreclosure stuff going on. Pay what you can when you can.
Did George Bailey work there?
I think so. I think so.
The mortgage payment was $21.
It was very, but of course that was equivalent to basically the week's pay. And that was sort of a rule of thumb for an awful long time. You shouldn't mortgage more than a week's pay.
Well, they bought the house for $3,700.
Yeah.
You told me another story at Barclay that Uncle Danny fell off the swing. You remember that?
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
I remember it well.
Boy, I'll tell you, I was with him when it happened. Jerry, you must have been there too.
Which one was this now?
This was over at the little park on the end of Washington Avenue.
Yeah.
When Eddie Flanagan was swinging and Dan was over doing something and I was somewhere else, and the next thing is I hear this thud. He's never been the same.
And I'm going to get a lawyer.
Jack wants it passive.
I'm telling you the story. I'm listening to it. When that bing, you
The
just
swing
sitting
hit me
here,
right in the forehead.
right smack up in the old brains department.
That explains it.
And now, in those days, talk about the way things were. How do you get to the doctor? You didn't have a car,
No phone.
no one around. You didn't have a telephone. Got to go somewhere, get to the corner store or wherever they would have a pay phone, and you would call. And then you had to find out how to get. Fortunately, we were living at that time not too far away from New Haven Hospital, or even then St. Rayfield. So we brought. I don't know where we took Dad or where my mother took him. But it was an awful experience to see the little kid get.
Well, they'd send you up. Well, I went up. She gave me $1, go see the doctor. So I walked up to Joe Soil and then Dr. Newman. I went for $1 and gave him. My mother wants you to check this. At the time that you were on the fence at Bassett, and you caught your hand here, had to rip the hole in your arm there.
It's
I remember Mom also saying at that time, and I was getting a little older, she felt so sorry for me being injured, and she felt so sorry for Eddie Flanagan, our cousin, who was on the swing that hit me. So she had that, great love for everybody. She was a wonderful lady.
yeah, no question.
And once in a while we had fun.
No lawsuits planned.
No, she was not a fault finder. She was not a fault finder, not at all. So she left a nice legacy. Both left good legacies, but my mother was a real. She found no fault with most people.
But she wasn't a
Almost
stickler.
everybody. She would find something good.
She wasn't a stickler for you guys to go to school, was she?
No, you didn't feel good? Stay home. No problem. Her big thing in life was much more than anything that I can remember was a love of God, love of the church, and she said more than 20,000 times, I'm sure, be a good boy. That was so important to her. Be a good boy.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So that's
I think our prayers were answered.
if these comments are around 10, 20 years from now, listen to them again because
We'll edit them.
the lessons were good.
Dad,
The lessons were good.
some of her favorite
cannot
quotes, she said,
leave
looking
this
through
world.
a
Her what?
keyhole- Looking through a keyhole.
Oh, my mother, the worst feeling in life is the guy that was peeking in a keyhole on a door. And says I'm looking an eye back.
She looked in, she saw another
The
eye.
They look in there, and there's another eye looking back out you.
So, folks, this won't sell on TV, but
This is the poem.
Rerun. You ever
You want to read
rerun?
it out loud so we're going to hear it?
Oh, wow. My mother was a great writer of poems, we believed. And then we found out that maybe it was not quite so true. But anyhow, here's
plagiarism.
one that she did write. And I'm assuming she wrote it herself. God has blessed me with 3 children, whom I love so, if I can go through this without crying,
go ahead, do it.
whom I love so tenderly. They are young, sweet, and handsome, as you can plainly see.
Right.
One is over 5 years old, will be 6 in January.
Oh,
The other 2 come pretty close and range in age from 2 to 3. They are John, Gerald, and Daniel, the sweetest of them all, with
Yep.
bright big eyes of Irish blue, ever bringing me joy. But sad, oh my God. Let's see if you can finish the last paragraph.
of my joy, okay. But sad to say, the best is gone,
best is
to
gone.
God forevermore. But we all meet, we shall meet in heaven again, that bright eternal shore.
Brother Edward.
Brother Edward, he died as an infant. He was, yeah,
3 days old.
yeah.
3 days for prosperity. Can you
Yeah.
get through it one more time?
Pardon?
Try to do it one more time. Can you try?
The whole thing, or?
You can
Okay.
do it. You can do it, Dan.
God has blessed me with 3 children, whom I love so tenderly. They are young, sweet, and handsome, as you can plainly see. One is over 5 years old, will be 6 in January. The other 2 come pretty close in range and age from, I can't do it.
Okay, okay. That's fine. That's fine.
If you're satisfied,
Yeah.
oh, there she is.
There she is.
There she is. But sad to say, the best is gone, to God forevermore. But we shall meet in heaven again, that bright eternal shore. Mother,
Amen to that.
Yeah.
No doubt they're together.
that is she.
That is beautiful.
Good job.
Okay.
All right, boys. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes.
Now let's try it with film in the camera.
Okay.
Did you push play?
Because you like so they would get like a winch and pull up good reason for it.
Oh my God.
That's a,
in the house. Maybe it happened
and that's
at 10
important.
o'clock at night.
The idea
No
is,
telephone.
well,
And how, they just dealt with that kind of stuff.
Right.
Today, I don't know what we would do.
the end of it all.
Right, if you leave your phone in the car, there's
We think it's possible she was 16 because after she passed, they found one that's being photographed. There was an arranged marriage.
The case.
Well,
Is the baby booked in the same
she actually is the one that paid for her to come over.
That was my neighborhood. I mean, I couldn't be in that back. I remember calling you. Did you?
Take you over there.
The yard scene.
a little reflection there.
They don't care. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's a joke. Oh, use your finger.
great idea.
Said when? When? No, he's video.
When?
No.
Give us a wave.
I always
Give us
say
a wave.
when. Everyone in back. Okay. It's locked, Graham. Hi, Graham. It's me. It's Kerry. Kerry. And this is my friend Nick.
Hi.
And this is Jenny. And this is Colin.
Are they your children?
They sort of are.
Husband?
Yeah, in a way.
In a way?
Yeah, soon to be my husband.
Oh.
He has a child named Jenny.
Oh, he had?
Yeah, he did.
He picked out a lovely child, didn't he?
Didn't he?
Oh, God love you, lovely gentleman. Oh, it's nice to meet you.
You met him before, you just don't remember.
Did I meet you? Please forgive me, darling.
That's
Your
okay.
apartment's beautiful.
Oh, yes, I do everything every day.
Tell us some stories, because this is a movie camera, you know. And your great-grandchildren will watch this, and your great-great-great-grandchildren will watch it. This is
What is it?
It's a movie camera.
You
You're gonna be a movie star. Yeah, you
Oh, is that all right? Oh, not bad. Can you top that? You'd expect to be a little warmer.
Yeah, I know it. No, a little cooler.
What time is it? The year is it?
It's Christmas Day. For goodness
I was just kidding.
yeah.
Can you top that?
No. What is he doing out there?
Who is it?
Colin.
Oh. Why'd you close the door? It's kind of cold.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
So what are you doing this Christmas, Graham?
Well, my boyfriend is coming and I don't want to give away my secrets. Can you top that? Make it a chair for your boyfriend. Is this your boyfriend or your husband?
Well, he's going to be my husband soon.
Ah.
Thank you.
Well, you picked out a lovely, lovely girl.
Oh, thank you.
You sure did.
I know that.
God bless you, dear.
Graham, do you understand what I'm doing here?
What are you doing?
This is a movie camera, and I'm taking your picture, which is going to last forever. And after you're dead and gone, this movie will be seen by millions. Yeah, but we're all dead and gone. By all of your ancestors. Do you have anything special to say to them? Do you have any special stories about Ireland to let them know where you came from?
But it's Ireland first and Ireland last and Ireland overall.
That's right, and finish that. I like that. Finish that.
Oh, I don't know what the next verse is. What matter is from south or north, come we are from the west. As long as Irish hearts are true, prepared to do the best. Then here today, let each one say, whatever may befall, it's Ireland first and Ireland last and Ireland overall.
That's right, Graham.
Yeah, can you top that?
That's very good.
Yeah.
You know, my parents took some old husband John.
Oh!
And he was in there.
Oh!
Big as a mountain. Big as a mountain.
Oh, yeah.
And you were in there plenty of times.
I was just a kid then.
No, you weren't.
Now, why was I then?
You were old enough.
Oh.
Old enough.
Well, how about how old I am today? Is it 18 or 19?
Oh, you're about 16, I think.
Can you top that?
I had this book all picked out for you to answer questions, and I forget. But there were some things in the book that wanted me to ask you. What was the favorite time of your life, and what was your favorite color, and what was your first dress, and your first date? What was your first date, Graham?
First date?
Yeah, what was your first date?
Oh, I haven't. We always, where I lived, there was always company come in at night. There'd be 4 or 5 boys. And
they would come in to call?
Sit down at the fire and chit-chat for the till 9 or 10 o'clock, you know.
Did you have a dress that you wore a lot? Did you have a favorite dress that you brought over with you, or no? Nothing that special?
Too easy.
We have to wait, Jen.
Who was that?
Jenny. Yeah. America. You took the boat? Did you take a boat?
Did I take a boat?
Yeah, did you take a boat?
What else?
I don't know, maybe you swam.
I had full permission to go swimming across.
Don't laugh at her, she said.
Can you top that?
No, I can't. Did you have a favorite dress that you used to wear? Or you can't remember, it's no big deal.
You mean coming over here?
Well, even when you were in Ireland. Why did you leave Ireland? Why did you leave Ireland, Grandma?
Because we were so rich.
You were very rich.
Yes, we were very, very rich, and we didn't know what to do with all the money. Tons of it coming in, and everything so...
And your parents didn't need your help at all.
Ah, boy, they certainly needed our money help.
Yeah.
That's what they needed. Yes,
But when you left Ireland, Graham, you never saw your parents again.
Never. Yes, I did. I saw them. I was back once while they were still living. I was back in Ireland.
They must have been very proud of you.
Oh, I suppose. They're all proud of all their children, you know.
How many children were there?
There was only 15.
That's all?
That's all. Yeah.
And what were their names? Do you remember all their names?
Well, yeah. Sure, if I tell you it's too long of a...
No, tell me.
There's Annie, May, Baby, Josie, Agnes, Kathleen, Teresa, Tommy, Lily, Eileen, and Lucy. How many is that?
I'm not sure.
And what to see for the boys? Dan, Mike, Pat, Matt, John, Thomas. I don't know the others. They passed away before I knew
Very
them.
young.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
what was your house like in Ireland? Tell us about your home in Ireland. What was it like? What did it look like? Tell us a simple thing.
It suited us. It was swell.
Sure.
You had a kitchen a couple of bedrooms, front room. I can't remember. We had nothing like we have it here. Nothing. No, I tell you the truth. I shouldn't be finding fault with our country.
No, you're not.
Nobody
I don't
should find fault with where you're, you know. But when you come to America, it's the light of the world. Everyone is coming and going, and, you know. Well,
but you didn't have a kitchen in your house like we had in ours. I mean, you didn't have an linoleum floor. You had a dirt floor. Is that right?
Sure.
And you had animals out in the yard. Is that right?
Certainly. Cows and calves and pigs and dogs.
And then you met John. You met John at a dance?
My husband?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Where?
In Ireland someplace.
Oh, you did meet him in
I
Ireland.
can't remember. I cannot remember, darling. If I had a chance to think about the things.
Well, how about my father's story about the horse following home from school that one day?
Following him?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
No. Well, your father lived in the south of Ireland, and I lived in the...
No, sweet. My father lived on Lilac Street.
Oh, your father, your Jackie.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were...
Do you remember that?
I thought you were... What?
Well, the horse-drawn carriages at one point.
Sure.
One horse got loose.
I kind of forget. But you could write a book on it if you, you know.
Yeah.
To tell about everything. But my father said, you know, you think that we were big millionaires, you know. Remember who you are. That's the way he said when we were going out to take care of ourselves, you know.
That's right.
So to him we were everything.
That's right.
You know, of course.
What was your father's name, Graham?
Matt.
Matthew. And your mother's?
Beatrice. Bridget, we said in Ireland.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
We had a small family, I mean. children.
That's all.
3 died as babies, and somebody was teasing my mother about the big family. And her answer was, she says, God never sent a child into the world, but he sent a bite to eat for her too.
I never got that. All the time she says it, I never really got that.
Yeah,
God never sent a bite for it to eat.
God left him. God never sent a child into the world, but he sent a bite to eat for her too.
Oh, I see. If there wasn't a bite to eat, he wouldn't have sent a child.
Yeah, he would not indeed.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the way. And then there was a lady living right next door to us, and they could well afford children. And she had a sister. There was 2 sisters that lived near each other. Neither one had any baby. So you see, God's ways aren't our ways.
Right. What does that mean?
No.
Yeah.
No, darling.
And how old are you when you left Ireland, Graham?
27.
Very young lady.
Sure. Quite a child.
See, she's crazy. I told you, she's crazy.
You little darling.
And of all the songs that you've learned over the years, Graham, of all the songs that you've learned over the years, what pops into your mind when you think of Ireland?
But is Ireland first, and Ireland last, and Ireland overall. What matter if from south or north come we, or from the west? As long as Irish hearts are true, prepare to do their best. Then here today, let each one say, whatever may befall, but is Ireland first, and Ireland last, and Ireland overall. And you should hear my father tell us how you should love your country. Don't you know, I suppose every father tells their children that, how to love your country.
Yeah.
To die for your country if you have to. But that's the way we were told, you know. That's
Don't mess it up.
In a situation where it doesn't know anybody to do it.
Beautiful, thanks a lot.
That's great.
See you. Wondering a lot longer than I was. No, he's coming back. It is so cheap.
Life's a weary problem, past finding out by men. I go my way and smoke my pipe and do the best I can. Since no one cares a rap for me, whatever need I mold, I go my way and smoke my pipe along the old bog. Don't Irish. Don't Irish start.
Yep.
Just like my father said to us. Remember who you are. When we were going out.
That's right.
Yeah. But my mother said, you think the way he's talking that we were millionaires. You know what he said?
Not millionaires, but you are in here.
Exactly. That's the way he felt about it. That we were his, and no one could be anything like us.
That's right. It's okay with me. I don't care.
Carly, my mom said you're in the sleepover. What do you think about it?
Who is this little girl?
She's on the bathroom, so.
Who is she? Who is she?
Now, what on your
My Katie and Erin.
Katie.
That's my Katie.
How did she get?
Does she look like her dad?
Katie's being nice.
I know this to me.
This is Erin, Colleen's little girl. Erin.
Dad can't wait. He's got that thing going on.
No, he doesn't.
Dad, go holler.
Press too far away, checked. If you press it half, it'll fast
It's
forward.
the same way it was, Mom.
Cover your mouth, okay?
Press it out.
That's fast. Come on, what are you doing?
Talking to him. Look at his ears and his eyebrows.
Put it up.
I got another story for you. It's about a birthday party I went to once, back on Melmac. Of course, birthday parties on Melmac are a little different than birthday parties on Earth. On Melmac, everybody's birthday is the same day.
That is
A
right.
life of rubbish. But this birthday party was not of my friend, Justine Murphy. And it was a real smash room. I almost didn't go because I didn't have anything fancy to wear.
Hey, loosen up.
But anyway, I decided to go to the party.